Hi guys! So Lilia is 6 days old today, and I'm going to do my labor and delivery explanation video now. So I already did the labor and delivery video, and now this is going to be like explaining everything that happened, because you can't tell from the video because I had to cut so much out. So Monday night, this is June 14th, I started having contractions that were not that were painful. They weren't like the Braxton Hicks anymore. And so I started having them at night, and I just went to bed, and I woke back up, and they were gone. And all day Tuesday, then Tuesday afternoon, I started having more contractions. Lilia. Okay, so Tuesday night I started having more contractions. I went to bed that night, and I woke up the next day, and I had contractions off and on all day on Wednesday. And Tuesday night at around like 3-ish, I think, I'm not really sure what time, I felt like I don't know. Basically, I thought my water was leaking, and so I waited. That woke me up really early, and I waited until the doctor's office opened to call, and I called them, and I was like, I think my water might be leaking. Should I come to the doctor's office, or should I go to the hospital? And they're like, just go to the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and this is on Wednesday, and this is now the 16th. Yeah, so on the 16th, I went to the hospital, and they were like, basically they checked me, and I was at 2 centimeters, but she said my water was not broken. They tested, she checked me, and this is going to be really nasty. She checked me, and then she took the stuff from her fingers, and she wiped it on, this little thing, and she told us that if it changed to a certain color, then that meant it was amniotic fluid, and if not, then it meant it was just discharge, I guess. And so she checked it, and she said it looks a little fernish. What was that word? Fern something. So it looked like a fern plant. That's the way she explained it. So she said it looked a little bit like that, but not enough to mean that my water broke. So she went ahead and she sent me home, and I had contractions off and on that entire day, and then into that night, and I couldn't fall asleep until 1:30 probably, and then my contractions woke me up at 4 o'clock. This is now the 17th. At 4 a.m. and they started getting really painful, and then I started timing them, and they started getting closer together. Some of them were 3 minutes apart, and then some of them were 8 minutes apart. So they weren't regular, but they started getting closer and closer. And so I waited until my doctor's appointment to do anything, because my doctor's appointment was at 2:35 or something that day. So I went to the doctor's appointment, and he checked me, and he said I was almost 3, and so I was like, can you just go ahead and stretch me to 3? And so he stretched me all the way. He's like, okay, now you're a full 3 centimeters. And then I asked him if he could do a membrane sweep, and he did a membrane sweep, and he said he could reach my cervix a lot better this time, because in the past he would dig in there all the way back. So he found my cervix, and he did the membrane sweep, and he stretched me, and he said, now that you're 3 centimeters, when you go to the hospital, they have to keep you no matter what. So basically when the contractions start hurting, because I told him that I've been having contractions. So he said, when they start hurting bad enough, just go to the hospital, or when they're a certain amount of minutes apart, go to the hospital, and you will be admitted. So I went home, and I tried to take a nap, because I had a feeling that it was going to be, he said he was on call that night, so he'd probably see me that night. So I had a feeling that I was going to go back there that night, so I tried to take a nap, and the contractions started hurting way too bad. And I finally got up about 5 o'clock in the evening, and I just kind of sat here, and then this is in the video when I was sitting there eating the saltine crackers, because I had figured I'd not eat anything for a long time. So I just nibbled on some crackers. My contractions were getting closer and closer together. I think they're about 4 minutes apart at that point. And I started advancing on the birthing ball, and I had my cousin come over, and I had Gabe come over. And my contractions, hi baby! Hi! My contractions started getting 2 to 3 minutes apart. So someone's pooping. Okay, sorry, she needed to eat. Okay, so then, we were standing there, my contractions were 2 to 3 minutes apart, and I was standing there, and Gabe kept trying to touch me, and I did not want anyone to touch me when I was having a contraction, and so he came up to me, and he went to hug me. Did you go to hug me? I don't know, he did something, and I got mad at him, and I pushed him away, and my water broke. And it was just a gush, kind of. It was a small gush, and then it was it continually kept leaking until I had her, basically. But the first one was just a gush. So I went and I changed I changed my undies and put a pad on, and we're like, okay, time to go to the hospital. So we finished packing up our stuff, and that was at 7 o'clock exactly when my water broke. And we arrived at the hospital around 7:40 after we packed up all of our stuff. They checked me, and I was at 3 centimeters still. They finally admitted me in at 8:20. I think it was 8:20. Okay, so 8:20, they hooked me up, and people started coming in, and just kind of, the contractions weren't that bad yet. They were about, the lady said they were about 2 minutes apart. But yeah, they still weren't that bad. But I did have a back labor. It was, most of the pain was in my back, but it felt like the really bad period cramping plus like an excruciating back pain. But the back pain was like all the time. It would just get worse during the contractions. So I labored for a couple hours, and I walked around a little bit. I think we walked around the hospital like 4 times or 5 times. Like 4 or 5 times we walked around the hospital, and every time I had a contraction I would just stop, and I'd like, Gabe would be my whole, he'd be my legs. I like completely leaned on him. So at about 12:30 they finally checked me again, and my contractions started getting really, really, really painful. And she checked me, and I was still at 3 centimeters. And when I got to the hospital, I was 90% effaced, which was backwards from my appointment. And then the time she checked me again, I think I was back up to 95%. So I was 3 centimeters and 95% effaced after like laboring for so long and walking around and doing everything. I was like, okay, well, can I get the epidural? And she was like, okay, let me call your doctor. So she called the doctor, I guess, and he said that I can't have an epidural until I was 4 centimeters. And I was like, that's horrible, because after all this time, I'm only 3 centimeters. How in the heck am I going to get to 4 centimeters? So they gave me some pain medication just through the IV, and it was called fentanyl, I think is how you say it. So they gave me that. They gave me like half a dose, and that did not do anything at all. It helped for like 1 contraction, and then it went back really painful again. And so then the lady checked me at like, she checked me again probably about 12:45-ish. So just like 15 minutes after, and she checked me and she was like, oh, you're at 4 centimeters. And I was like, yeah. At like 1 o'clock, she ordered the epidural, and then she came, or she asked me if I wanted the rest of the fentanyl, and I think I did take it. Alright, so then she gave me the rest of the fentanyl until the anesthesiologist got there. And about 1:15, they finally gave me the epidural, and it felt so, immediately it kicked in, and I could not feel anything during the epidural. It was like a teeny tiny pinch. Like the IV they put in my hand hurt so much more than that tiny needle. Like it was nothing at all. It was nothing. So they did the local, and they did that, and then just feel some like pulling and tugging, just kind of like when he was working back there. And then immediately the pain went away, and I was just like, that is awesome. Like, why would you not take an epidural? Like, seriously. And so that was at like 1:15. So about 10 minutes later, I finally got settled back down. I laid down and I tried to rest. I tried to sleep, but it didn't work. And she came back in at about 2:30. So it was about an hour later. And she checked me again, and I was at 9.5 centimeters. Like that. Like I went from, well, actually, okay, I went from 4, and right after I got the epidural, they checked me again just because, to see, I don't know, just to see, I guess. And immediately after the epidural, I was at 5. And then an hour later, I was at 9.5. And during that time, I started feeling the pain again from, it wasn't like the pain that it was before, but I started feeling the contractions in my back. It was only in my back. And so it wasn't that, I kind of was wondering if the epidural was wearing off, but I guess it was just the progression, how fast it went, that was hurting. I don't know. So 12:30 they checked me, and she said I was at 9.5, and so, okay, well, after she said I was 9.5 centimeters, I kind of called my mom back in, and then it was my mom, Gabe's mom, Gabe's sister, and my cousin, and Gabe, of course. Alright, so there was those 5 people in the room, and they finally called us back, or I called them back into the room. And we just kind of chilled there. I tried to rest, but I got too excited because I was like, wow, this is like actually happening. So at about 4 o'clock, she came back in there, and she told me my cervix was gone. It was like completely, it was just gone. So it was full 10 centimeters. And she said we were gonna do some practice pushes so she could know when to call the doctor. So I did it was about 3 practice pushes. And then she was right there. Like, she wasn't quite crowning, right? She wasn't crowning yet? Yeah, she wasn't crowning, but she moved, like, my stuff to the side, and you could see her head right there. she called the doctor. She was like, okay, so we're going to call the doctor now. Okay. Well, the doctor got there at about 4:50. And they started setting everything up. And at 5 o'clock, I started pushing. I think it was 5 o'clock exactly, according to my camcorder. At 5 o'clock, I started pushing. And I pushed only for 4 contractions. And with each contraction, you do like 3 of those, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10s, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it was 4 of the full pushes, and 12 minutes later, she was born. So she was born at 5:12 a.m. and she was 7 pounds 6 ounces, 19 inches long. Her head was 34 centimeters. Oh, and I tore. So I do have, I think we figured out is about 6 stitches. But I tore internally. I tore on the inside. So I didn't get an episiotomy, and I didn't get like a tear on the outside. So I don't have stitches on the inside or on the outside. I only have stitches on the inside. I don't really understand how that works, but so I have stitches on the inside, and the cord was wrapped around her neck, but that was nothing. You can see in the video, he goes cord around the neck, and then he undoes it, and undoes. Is that a word? Yeah. I don't know. He took the cord off of her neck, and she was born, and they plopped her down right on me, and Gabe was very happy. I think that's like pretty much all. About a half an hour after she was born, I was asking the nurses, I was like, because I know that you're supposed to breastfeed within the first hour of life, because that's when they're the most alert and the most, like, I don't know, aware of what's going on, because after that they go into like this sleep that they sleep for like ever. So right after I was asking the nurses, and the one nurse that I asked, she was like, no, wait until she's hungry, and I was like, really? And so I asked another nurse, and she was like, oh yeah, feed her now, and I was like, that's what I thought. So no one really helped me until like right before she finally got it, but I was just sitting there and I was trying to get her to latch on, and she latched on like perfectly, just like that. She was like a pro from the start, and she breastfed for about an hour, and then they took her off because they had to go give her a bath and stuff. About 7 o'clock, they moved me to the postpartum room. So that's my labor and delivery story. I'm going to be doing a postpartum video tomorrow when she's 1 week old, and I'll show you guys my belly in it, and I keep getting, everyone's like, are you going to show us? And yes, I'm going to show you, and I'll show you my stretch marks, and I'll show you all the nastiness that's going on with my belly. But it looks a lot better than I thought it would. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger. And it was big at first, but it's like slowly decreasing. It's like, I'm like deflating. I'm like a big balloon. So yeah, I'm pretty sure that's all. As soon as she's done breastfeeding, I'll show you guys a close-up of her. She'll probably be done in about 5 or 10 minutes. So I'll just attach that to this video so you guys can see what she looks like. Thank you so much to everybody who followed. I know a lot of you guys were telling me that you stayed up all night because you kept getting the Twitter messages to your phone, sent to your phone and stuff, and that's really awesome. That's exactly why I wanted to do the Twitter thing. But my mom was attached to that thing. She did a really good job too. So yeah, so if you're not following me on Twitter yet, you can go there to see some of the pictures that I did post already. And I'm going to be doing more videos with her in it to where you can see her more. And I'll show you guys her right now, and that's pretty much all. So I'll see you guys, or I'll show you guys her, and then I'll see you guys tomorrow for my postpartum update. And that's all. So, bye! Here she is. Her hair is light brown. She has a lot of it in the back. And me and my mom were looking at the top of her hair this morning, and there's some red streaks in there. There's definitely some red streaks. Who knows what it'll turn out to be. But she's getting chunkier and chunkier. When we left the hospital, she was 6 pounds 14 ounces. Her eyes, we can't really tell what color they are. Sometimes they look brown, sometimes they look green, and sometimes they still look dark blue. And sometimes they look gray. So we have absolutely no idea what color her eyes are. But she's getting darker every day. And her hair is brown for the most part, except for the few random streaks of red. She looks a lot. The bigger she gets, the more she looks like Gabe. I want you to be cute. Now she's waking up.
She doesn't have one.
And she tries to hold her head up. It's so funny because she can't. Big stretch. Bye, YouTube.